Hey everyone, this is Gnogart. So after last video I wanted to give you the deck list for the Heraldic deck, but before that I wanted to just go over the list with my team and gather my thoughts on it to give you the best possible deck profile. And in doing so I also found a combo with the new changes that you can make now with the deck, which is the strongest combo of the deck generally, and it just takes 1x. So that will be in the end of the video, so stay tuned for that. But let's just not talk any longer and just hop right into the deck profile. So we are going to start with the deck list as I played it first, and then I'll talk about what I thought of the deck and what I would change, and then the changes I would make, but also some option of changes that you can make. So let's just hop into the list as I played it and talk about the cards. So we have a small Heraldic engine, but also the Ryzeal engine is about the same size in the end. So it's like half-half for Heraldic and Ryzeal, and then you have the non-engine and consistency cards. So we have 3 Heraldic Beast Griffin. This is the starter for the Heraldic engine. Basically, you can send a Heraldic Beast from your deck for cost and summon this, and after that you are locked into Xyz monsters from the extra deck, and you can only use Heraldic Beasts or number monsters as material. Your primary send target will be the Leo. This is an older card, but it's still once per turn, sadly. And if this is sent to the graveyard, you have to add, it's a mandatory effect, add an Heraldic Beast from your deck to your hand, and your primary target for that is the Stat Whale, which on discard can add you 2 heraldry spells or traps. But also you can banish it from the grave and target 2 Heraldic Beasts with the same name, summon them, and then it applies the same lock as the Griffin. Note that the lock is only applied for the grave effect, not for the hand effect, which is very important for the lines of this deck. Now, the targets for the whale are 2 of the Advanced Heraldry Art. Now, this is the main payoff of the engine. It's such a strong card. It's not once per turn, and you just make an Xyz out of your grave by using 2 Heraldic Beast cards. And the Xyz summon happens in sequence, so say your opponent has Nib and you have Ryzeal Cross, you're on 4 summons, you activate this, you summon 5, 6, and then the Xyz as 7, and if the Xyz is a duo drive, then they can't nib you. They have no window for that. So pretty nice, and generally, like, if the whale resolves, it's very hard for you to lose, because whale is a body for a rank 4. It gives you 2 more rank 4 Xyz, and it also from the grave gives you a rank 4 Xyz. So 3.5 rank 4 Xyz is very strong. So that's the card with Heraldic or Heraldry in the name, but obviously in the consistency cards there's more. But let's just talk about the Ryzeal cards very quickly. We have 2 Ice, 2 Xed, 2 Sword. Usually I don't like the sword as much, but since all of those are semi-limited, you kind of have to fill out the deck just to have the names. This is the worst starter obviously here, and if you have the Heraldic engine and start with that and get interrupted, you don't get to duo drive. You also don't get to special summon sword, but still I think you need to run the Sword Ryzeal at 2 just to fill out the deck, to have the consistency, to have the names in the deck, to search, and yeah. But if you happen to try it at 1 and it works out for you, and let me know in the comments and tell me why it worked for you. And then for the other Ryzeal cards, we have 1 Cross, 1 Plugin. Cross, self-explanatory. Plugin is very important in this deck, and the reason I main it is because your main payoff as the Xyz for strategy, like without the Fiendsmith side engine or something, is the Detonator. So if the Detonator gets banished and you can't bring it back, your grind game takes a big hit and you kind of have to close it out as fast as possible, whereas a Ryzeal plugin can summon it back from the banish, and you can also recycle plugin with the Cross. So, and besides that, plugin is also just like a decent card. If you get to play, it's an extender in the worst case. I had a play where I had Whale and Sword and plugin. So I just used Whale, discarded the Sword, forced them to negate the Whale, obviously, because that card wins the game. And then you just plug in the Sword back, and I just played from there. So, yeah, that's it for the Ryzeal cards in the main. So about the same size. I think it's 7 and 8. And then for the consistency cards, we obviously have the one bonfire. And then for the Heraldic Beast consistency cards, we have 3 extra Foolish Burial. Now, this is a card that I have found, it's kind of like half an X. It's just like you pay the half of your life points and then send a monster from your extra deck to the graveyard. For the rest, in this turn, you cannot set cards. So the drawback seems pretty hefty, but you have some discards. Like if you have an Imperm, which is the only real target at the moment, then you can just discard the Imperm, worst case, or keep it in your hand as a board breaker for the follow-up. But this can just send your number 18, which you'll see in the extra deck later, or you've seen it in the combos, and gets you grave setup for the advanced heraldry, but also gets you a search for heraldics. And it doesn't minus you like something like 7th Tachyon would. Speaking of 7th Tachyon, I run 3 Small World in this case. Now, I don't own 7th Tachyon because I'm not a fan of the -1. This was the last inclusion in the deck, and it lets me open up the extra deck a bit more because I don't have to run the number monsters. The extra deck is really, really tight, but also you draw so much that sometimes you have extra monsters in your hand you can just then convert into hand traps. I think one time I got Fuwat, but I had like draws into the Small World, so I just like converted some random body in hand into an Ash Blossom, and that Ash Blossom helped me like stop the final push. Not the best consistency cards, but yeah, you can basically just take them out. I think the deck count is 42, so if you don't like the Small World, you can take them out, put in like a Talons, and go like that. But I wanted the extra consistency just because X Ryzeal is so good in this deck that the -1 is worth getting the X Ryzeal. And then the last card for the consistency is Pot of Prosperity. Yeah, it's Pot of Prosperity. Then we have one of the called buys. I think called buy is pretty good this format. I'm not a fan usually of called buy, just like as a standard main deck inclusion. But for now, I like it because there's going to be a lot of Charmies around next format, and you want to get your extra Ryzeal, your dual drive through, so I like called buy. And it's also pretty nice against Mitsu, just against their engine. And then non-engine, again, if you've seen my deck profiles before, this is not mandatory that you have to play always Ash, always Veiler, always Nip, but I like to keep it very simple and flexible, so some people will not like this part where I run Droll and Fua, but I think Fua helps you keep combo decks down, and Droll is very important against Mitsu and something like White Forest. So I will take that conflict. And also both of these are pretty nice for small world bridges. Like Fua being a level 4 with 600 defense is very nice. For example, like 600 means you can bridge from this into Nib and then Nib any light that's X'd, for example. Or the other way around, right? Nib with a 600 defense into this, into any level 4, and so on and so forth. And then the last card for the non-engine is the Imperm. Now, feel free to switch up the non-engine as you like. Just remember that because we are on hand traps, small world bridges are much easier to make. So if you swap the hand traps out, think about cutting the small world if your bridges no longer work out. So that is the main deck, 42 cards if I didn't miscount. And let's just go into the extra deck. Now, obviously we run the one detonator. If I were to, I would run 2 obviously if I could, but it's at 1. Then we have 2 dual drive just to have the second name for the Ryzeal, and if your dual drive gets stopped on the following turn, you can just make another dual drive and try again to get to your cross. Then for the Heraldics, we have number 69. This is the old one. You kind of need it to rank up into the new boss monster. But also really annoying is you cannot make this after the detonator because the unsummon effect is mandatory and it says it negates all the XZs on the field forever. So it would negate your dual drive, your detonator. But you also have a second effect which says you can target an Xyz monster and adapt the name and the effect of it. So first you can make this a Ryzeal monsters if you want to detach with cross for it, but also sometimes on the follow-up turns you can summon this, and if you have something to remove something from your opponent, you can just copy the effect and use the removal effect. For example, I had a game where I brought back Castell with twins, and Castell has to detach too, but I just brought it back so I can copy it and then remove something. But yeah, we also run the new number 69s, which is the Dark Matter Demolition, and the, I don't know what the English name is, this one's German. But basically you can just put this on top of this, and when your opponent activates a monster effect on the field or declares an attack, you can rank this up and destroy the monster. And then the Dark Matter Demolition can detach a material to make a monster unknown, and all unknown effects activated by your opponent are negated. I think it should be worth noting, I forgot to say it, is that Heraldic Beast Griffin has a line that if you use it as an Xyz material for a number monster, you can treat it as 2 materials. So you can make this with just Heraldic Griffin and any other level 4. But yeah, this is the payoff. It's basically you can turn one of the advanced heraldry art into a pop and a negate, and this card can also not be destroyed by battle or artifacts. So it's decently efficient. One of my issues though is that it plays a bit weirdly into Fua because you have to summon twice from the extra deck just to make this. So it's 2 draws, and then I don't know if it's worth it anymore. And then the last heraldic card is the number 18. This is basically your foolish target. It has an on-field effect, but it does not matter in this list. So the grave effect is that you can send 2 heraldic beasts from your deck to the graveyard, which is not once per turn, so sometimes you can attach this with a detonator, detach it, and then send again, which makes your whale grave effect live. We obviously run Eclipse Twins, and we obviously run the aggregator as our X targets, or just like Eclipse Twins for the detonator. And then we have in front of the Flame Banshee. It comes up in the combo, and it's also nice to just get your heraldics into the Ryzeal engine while detaching a material, because sometimes if you go into duo drive immediately and your opponent stops it, your heraldic beasts are stuck under the duo drive and you cannot resolve your heraldry art. We have 1 Baguska, plan B. We have the 1 Star Leech Photon for targeting protection. If Metal Tronus is popular, that's the 1 hard counter to Detonator, because it banishes it face down, so even plugin can't get it back. We have 1 Extra tonight, obviously going second, super strong, applies a lot of pressure. We have Dugaris, just 2 draw cards, discard 1, sometimes comes up, and sometimes, like oftentimes, this deck has sometimes issues with getting over big monsters. You can use the other effect to double your monster's attack and swing over something. Then you have the Castell for spot removal. This was my choice over Tornado Dragon and the Adignister. So that's the deck list, and now let's just talk about some aspects of the deck. Alright, let's talk about pros and cons and how to fix issues in the deck that we found in our testing group, and I also found when playing the deck. There are 2 major things with this deck. The first one is, I talked about it in the profile already, the amount of cards that you don't want to draw in this deck is a bit higher than other Ryzeal variants. So you are trading a lot of the power for cards that you don't want to draw. Now, when I played this deck, it didn't come up that often that I had a totally unplayable hand, so it was better than expected in that regard, but it should be noted that it does run a couple of cards that can be awkward in hand. So if that something doesn't sit right with you, then probably use a different engine. I already have the engine as small as possible, and I cut the node from the deck. Now, that out of the way, the bigger issue is the grind game and extra deck utility generally, because you're using 3 slots for the heraldics here, and there were some situations where I wanted spot removal or just another endboard piece or something else. So the first thing I thought about was, if you don't have that much, if you need the utility in extra deck, maybe Prosp can be a bit bad because you are taking out a lot of your utility, which is the biggest strength of this deck now, and just for some consistency that you should already have with the supplemental engine. So Prosp can be cut. Also, your combo draws a fair amount of cards, so that conflicts with the Prosp as well. That's number one. And the other thing is you can go and take out one dual drive, because there are two situations where you need the dual drive, the second one. The first one would be to send it off of Xed, so you can attach it to the other dual drive so that you have another material on it. Now, Xed in this deck sends number 18 most of the time, so that situation is not that important. The other application of the second dual drive is if your first one gets negated, then you will make a second one in the following turn to then get your field spell and recycle this one. The second thing can be fixed by playing Star Ryzeal, because now suddenly, even if this gets negated, you can in the same turn make an Infernal Flame Banshee, grab the Star Ryzeal, and then set the field spell and go from there. But also in the following turns you can do this. That's not the only thing that Star Ryzeal fixes. It also gives you more outlets for your rank 4s. Sometimes I had more rank 4s than I had relevant Xyz to make. Now with Star Ryzeal you can just make Banshee and set like a plugin from your deck, or a Plasma Hole if you decide to play that. This one's optional, but I think Star Ryzeal is an MVP for sure. And then I had to take out one of the utility cards too, because there are two Xyzs that I wanted to play, and I decided to take out the Star Leech for now. Metal Tronos I don't see played that much in the current meta, and also in your boards you have a dual drive on the board anyway, so Metal Tronos becomes hard because Detonator is now 3100 or 200. And instead of these two, I definitely wanted to play Second Twins, and I wanted to play Emerald. Emerald can take a lot of load off the field spell, because it can also shuffle things back. And funny detail is this is not hard once per turn. So you can make Emerald, shuffle 3 cards back, draw a card, and then you make the number 69, target the Emerald, copy the effect, and do it again. Doesn't come up that often because your graveyard isn't that full turn 1, but it's nice to know. And then the Twins just because for the follow-up turns to recycle your Detonator, sending a Twins is just the easiest way of doing so, and it actually has a lot of synergies with the extra Foolish Burial too. So in the following turns this basically becomes a better Monster Reborn, because you just send the Twins and then you revive the Detonator with a material, and then it attaches a second material. Speaking of extra Foolish Burial, it does conflict with the Star Ryzeal, so beware of that, because this card says you can't set, this sets, but I think both cards are individually strong enough to be warranted to play. Yeah, so I would do these swaps and then maybe consider the Plasma Hole here. And another thing that my testing partners have mentioned is that you could actually take out the Heraldics here, because there are 3 slots, and actually I didn't make them that often, because obviously you don't play solo, you play against interruptions. And if you do that, you can actually put in some utility, put back the Star Leech, and have more of these. Obviously it takes a bit off the ceiling of your end board, because now you have utility instead of a 2 disrupt boss monster. But consider we put in the Star Ryzeal, so we have a bit more ceiling again due to that, especially if you play the Trap Hole here. Now, the other direction you could go is to keep with the Heraldic and just actually try to do more of it. And for that, some options would be to play more Whale and then add the charged up Heraldry to it, so that the Whale is actually a good normal summon. Maybe add another Leo just to have more flexibility, and Whale sent Leo is pretty nice. And in that case, because you need Psychics and Machines, you play the Sakura with the charge of Heraldry. So that's an option too, but I think going the other direction is preferred to that. Alright, that's it for the changes. So just summing it up, you swap out one of the Dual Drive, the Photon, and then the Prosp for these 3 cards, and then you can consider putting in the Plasma Hole as well, or go for more utility with these. So that's it for the pros and cons, the changes I would make. And if you have other ideas, let me know in the comments. But for now, before I close the video, we will do the God combo that I found if you run Star Ryzeal, Plasma Hole, and Star Leech Photon. So see you in a second. Alright, to close things off, I wanted to show you the full extent of what Extra Ryzeal can do in this deck. The biggest strength of this variant is that Extra Ryzeal is this strong. And with the changes we made to the deck, I wanted to show you what you can do with this card alone, and any card to discard. So you would summon the Extra Ryzeal, send number 18, go Chaining 1, Chaining 2. They can't ash this. You make this Chaining 2 because Imperm can be activated anyway. So you will get your Sword Ryzeal and you get the mill here. So we got the Leo and we got the Griffin. Now you can activate the Leo effect. They can ash this, but if they ash this, we have the Sword Ryzeal and can just do Ryzeal things from there. So we let this through and we get the Whale. Normal summon Whale. Discard any card. Activate Whale effect. If they didn't imperm this before, this is the point where they have to imperm, because once this resolves, you just get too many resources. So we would get 2 of the Advanced Heraldry Art, and now we are good to go. We can overlay these 2. 4 Infernal Flame Banshee, and then use the effect detach the Ryzeal monster. This is important because if they decide to interact with this, we want to have a Ryzeal in the grave so that we can special summon the Sword Ryzeal from our hand. So detach the Ext and grab ourselves Star Ryzeal. Star Ryzeal can then detach the other material and grab us our Ryzeal Cross, which we then activate immediately. Now, from this situation, what we want to do is we activate the Advanced Heraldry Art. Just grab 2 of our Heraldic Beasts. One of them should be Leo. And then we overlay into our Star Leech. And now we go and special summon Sword effect. Grab the Ice. Now, this is the last moment where they can nib you, because after this you are going to go into Dual Drive and then your cross is live. If they nib you here, we haven't made our Dual Drive yet, so we can just go and activate the Advanced Heraldry Art, make Dual Drive that way, grab Plugin and something else, and then Plugin plus the Ice that you still have left will be able to make your detonator. So if they don't nib us here, we go make Dual Drive, and then Dual Drive can then attach the Ext from the grave. And now if you look at the board state, we are protected from Imperm, we are protected from Ash and Valor and Nibiru, and basically the only thing your opponent can do to stop this Dual Drive would be Dominus Purge, unless I forgot something. So what you're going to do is you're going to activate the Dual Drive, detach the Griffin here, and one of the Ryzeals from here, to go and grab Plugin and Plasma Hole. You still want 2 materials under the Dual Drive because of the protection from the Star Leech, so that Star Leech protects itself. And from here on out, what you want to do is, because you detached the other Heraldic, that was important so that you have 2 Heraldics in grave to activate the other Advanced Heraldry Art. And we're going to use that to just make a Dugares, or anything you want really, but Dugares effect, detach 2, draw 2, discard 1. And we kind of just wanted to have another body so we can make twins here, and why not just get some advantage out of it as well. So we have the twins here, and then we can go and special summon the Ice, sending the twins, which will trigger the twins. Now you don't have many great targets here, but it's free, so you can just go get back the Banshee and attach the number 18 to it, because if this gets outed in your next turn, then you can get a double mill from the 18, and you will get 2 Griffins in grave so that the Whale grave effect is live. And if the Banshee sticks, you get a Pyro Surge. But mostly we wanted to get the Eclipse in grave, so that we can go plugin, get the Ext on the board, and then we can overlay these two to make a detonator and detonator attached twins. And then we can go and set the plasma hole. Now, if you look at this board, we got our dual drive through against Nib, against Imperm, against Veiler, against Ash, against Ogre, and we ended on targeting protection for everything that is not the Banshee, because Banshee is 1700. Unless you go and plug in detach, attach something to the dual drive, then this would be a 300 attack boost, and then this would also be target protection. We have the dual drive with 2 material just to boost things, play around Metal Tronos, and also have something where we can Ryzeal cross detach from. And obviously we have the detonator with the Eclipse Twins attached to it, plus the Ryzeal plasma hole, which can, because we have 2 Ryzeal monsters, pop 2 cards from our opponent. And we also have follow-up, because once this goes in the grave, the whale can revive 2 griffins, and you can just go from there with the Ryzeal cross shuffle back as well. So that is all off of 1 Ext, and it's super hard to hand trap, and this combo is basically the biggest strength of this deck, and that's the payoff for running the Heraldic cards in the deck. Alright, that's it for the Heraldic deck. Hope all of you enjoyed it, and leave a comment down below if you have improvements for this line or anything else. I would like to hear it. The only thing that is on the internet for this deck is the hand loop, so I would like to see some other thoughts on it. But that's it for the video, and I'll see you next time.